Remember when it comes to homeschool that the academics are great and academics are a way to grow. Academics are a way to help us to become more well-rounded. But there is so much more to these years of homeschooling than just the academics. We can teach our kids how to be consistent and show them how we are taking care of ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually.
Welcome to Little by Little Homeschool Podcast, where you'll learn tips and strategies that will empower you to home educate your children. I'm Leigh Nguyen, a homeschool mom of over 12 years, which includes 2 graduates. When I started homeschooling, I was pretty much on my own and was desperate for encouragement and help. My mission is to be a source of encouragement and help to you. Whether you are just beginning your homeschool journey or you're deep into the homeschool lifestyle, Little by Little Homeschool wants to help you stay the course because all the time you are investing into your children is completely worth it. If you're ready to take your homeschool to new levels, keep listening.
We are going to be talking about the trap that keeps you from being consistent in your homeschool. Do you know what that trap is? I kind of feel a little bad with this one and saying this and putting this out there, but I am going to be over here raising my hand saying that it also applies to me. So I'm going to tell you the trap, and I'm going to follow up that with information and some details of what that looks like. But then also there is always has to be some type of solution. So I'm going to give you a corresponding solution to it. The biggest trap to being inconsistent in your homeschool is, insert drum roll, it is you. It is you, the homeschool mom. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to throw you under the bus, no pun intended, but it is you. It is me. It is each one of us in our homeschool. So how can we be inconsistent? How are we the trap? How are we the bottleneck, we'll say? So there's a couple different areas we'll look at. Let's look at first physical. So how can you physically be the one that is inconsistent? Well, if you are not feeling well, if you don't have energy, and this goes beyond like, oh, I'm just not feeling well, or I have a fever for a couple days, or I've got, postnasal drip, or whatever it is. It's a temporary thing. This is overall lack of having energy and the stamina through the day. Yes, there is sometimes more stamina that is needed than is actually physically possible with young children, especially if your kids are ones that have a lot of extra measure of energy. But there are ways that we can kind of work to combat that. Now, this isn't going to be going into, I'm not a doctor, I'm not going to give you any type of deep health advice, personal one-on-one. But maybe there are some hormone issues, there are some deeper issues. But the surface level ones are ones that any and all of us can work on. And most of them can be free or very low cost, or the cost is actually really worth it. So how about a super free one? How about sleep? How about getting to bed on time? I know I've talked about that. I've gotten emails and messages from some of you saying, thank you for that just very simple reminder. And I'm over here right now telling you that, yes, I struggle with this too. As I am recording this, it is in the evening. It is not during the afternoon when I would rather prefer to do this, but because I've just had a lot going on, I have to do this now. But I have to say to myself, I have a deadline. I have to stop at a certain point. And then I need to get myself to bed. So getting enough sleep. That might include even taking some naps once in a while. How about nutrition? How about fueling yourself well? Instead of eating the bag of chips or a couple extra chocolate chip cookies or whatever your favorite thing is, whatever it is that has you. I'm not saying don't have the chocolate chip cookies. I find for myself that if I completely deny myself, I want things more and I crave it more. And then I might end up binge eating it. So, okay, have one chocolate chip cookie, but maybe not 20. So nutrition. But it's also just having that foundation of getting enough protein, getting enough fiber, getting enough calcium and all the things. Again, not a health nutritionist here, but just getting those basics in. And when we have those basics in, we find that maybe we aren't as hungry and don't crave those things that are actually holding us back. And then how about exercise? Completely free is to go and take a walk. It is a wonderful time of the year to get out there and to take walks and to enjoy this spring weather. And you can also take things to the next level. There are free videos online. You can just use your body weight. You can do cardio stuff. I do have another episode where I talked all about relearning the diet culture and all that, which can give you some more information. But we have to move on here. How about the part of you that is holding back is just your mental state? You probably have added too much. I do hear from moms often who are saying, I'm the one, I'm the problem. And that's what this episode is about. You are the problem. You're the cause, but it's okay. There's always a solution. And let me add that I don't see this necessarily as a bad thing. There are some adjustments to make, but it's because you care so much. You want to make the education, home education, and all that encompasses your entire family life so good. You want to pour into your kids. You are coming at it from a really good place in your heart. But we can get a little overzealous. And so how about your mental state? Is there places that you can reduce stress? Have you put yourself into such a tight box and such a rigid schedule that it just is too stressful? Or maybe there's just a lot of outside stress going on, things that you can't control within maybe extended family or your neighborhood, or just things that are out of your control. And therefore, homeschool and your family life really needs to be adjusted so that you can have a place at home that is not super stressful with the homeschool, so that then you can then be able to walk into and manage and deal with whatever the stress is from outside. How about your spiritual life? How is that going? Are you focusing on a relationship with God? When we spend time reading the Bible, we spend time in prayer, when we are active in wanting to live out our faith and to growing in that, there is a measure of peace and contentment that God gives us. There is just a better frame of mind and a better perspective. So are you focused on your relationship with God, which includes time of being in the Word, reading the Bible, prayer time? And out of the overflow of that, we can lead our kids into a relationship with God. Ultimately, they will choose their own relationship with God. But it's much easier to teach them such things when we are learning alongside them. And it's caught so much more when we show them, when they see us actually spending time reading the Bible, in prayer, when they see that our faith is active, it catches on to them. Now let's talk about the emotional part of you that can be holding back and your homeschool from being consistent, is that managing this perspective that these years of young children, or maybe older children, or maybe even teens, or you could have a family that runs the gamut with all of them, it can feel like it is just useless time, useless years when we are just doing the same thing over and over and over again. We get up, we empty the dishwasher, we make the breakfast, we clean up from the breakfast, we do our homeschool, we get the lunch, we clean up from the lunch, we maybe do more homeschool or run around to activities or get the house cleaned up. And, then you get to the end of the day, it's making the dinner, it's cleaning up from dinner, it's getting the kids' baths and get everybody to bed, it's cleaning up the house. And it just feels like over and over again that just that mundaneness is not making a difference, and that it's going to last forever. And it can feel like that, especially in some seasons. But what about if you looked at it the other side? What if you just neglected those things? Well, is that going to lead your children to becoming the young adults that you want them to be? It can be simple things like providing meals, and maybe your kids learn some bad habits around mealtime because you neglect providing food for them, or they're not healthy because of the food that is provided for them or lack thereof. I mean, I know that's a terrible example. I'm not saying to not feed your kids or anything, but just like to look at the opposite of what you're doing. What if you never cleaned up? What if you never even just did the basics of straightening up? And things are just dumped everywhere, and the house just kind of becomes a mess. It becomes a liability. It becomes hard to be able to maneuver around. What about even just little things, like every night, going in, talking with your kiddo, tucking them in, praying with them? Just feels like every single night. We know it's a good thing, right? And that's why we continue to do it. But what if you didn't do it? you would miss out on those moments. You would miss out on those memories for what? To sit on the couch and scroll on your phone? I think it's a better thing to go on up and to say goodnight to your kiddo. And I'm going to out myself right here and right now and say that I still do that to my youngest. My oldest too, oftentimes, well, especially my 20-year-old, he is up later than me. But I'll kind of peek my head in before I go to bed and just say goodnight. We just kind of get to that point where their schedules are just so different. And it would be kind of weird if I was tucking in a 20-year-old. Now, when my 22-year-old would come home to visit, most nights I would sneak up and, give her a hug and a kiss and say goodnight and tell her that I enjoyed having her home that day, that kind of stuff. But typically the 17-year-old, I'll still kind of go in. He doesn't need me to go in. And I might be busy in the middle of things. He's like, oh, I'm going to go to bed. I was like, no, I'll come on up. He's like, oh, okay, kind of, got to play it cool. But I think he does appreciate it. And we'll get to that point where I don't, but it's not weird. It's just me going in and, saying goodnight. And I do still pray with him. And it gives an opportunity. The lights are turned off. Usually there's maybe just like a light in the hallway or something like that. And questions come up. There's an opportunity to answer those questions that kind of in like a dim lighting and he's calm and things come up. They do tell you that teens will talk a lot more in the evening, and it is very true. Sometimes you're like, I am falling asleep. But when you are thinking about just the day in, the day out, and the things that you have to do, and it just is like, I have to do this again tomorrow, and this mundane stuff, does this really matter? Does it matter that we take a walk after dinner every evening? Maybe not, but it's not a negative thing. If it's not a negative thing, it's probably going to positively pour into your kids. So think about if you were to not do it, is it going to add something negative to their life? Then you probably should continue doing the good thing. And if it is not positive or negative, then does it really hurt to do that positive thing? Now, we have to balance this with the fact that we don't have to be perfect. And not everything is, your life isn't going to be perfect. We're not going to have all of these perfect routines and this perfect parenthood, and that's okay. That's not the goal. That's not the focus. And also keep into perspective that not everything has to turn into a lesson. Sometimes we just listen to our kids and, we listen to the teens, ask questions and I'll answer, and it's late at night. Nobody wants to be lectured right then. But oftentimes I'll remember that and try to kind of pull it in sometime into a conversation and see how it goes then. But even just little things, they don't have to be a lesson every single time. If everything is a lesson every single time, trust me, especially in the teen years, they are going to stop coming to you and talking to you because they're going to say, I'm going to get a lecture. And they don't want to be lectured all the time. So as far as the last thing I want to mention under this emotional aspect is to have fun. Have fun with your kids. If you're not having fun, figure out what it is that's holding you back from having fun. It doesn't mean that everything has to be fun, but have some fun moments. Go on the hike and just be present and just have fun. Surprise your kids sometimes with some crazy, zany sort of things and just have fun, some kind of off the wall. I actually like to do that. That's kind of been my thing, especially with my teens. When they sort of become teens, is just completely pull something out of left field and do it or say it. And I have heard recently from my 20-year-old son, he said, I sometimes have no idea what to expect from you, but in a good way. So it's those fun things. I mean, some things he knows I'm going to have a certain response to certain things. He knows that I am going to not be excited about some of the things and the risks that he takes. He knows that I'm going to be consistent in providing meals, and if he has a question or a problem or needs to talk about things, he knows that I'm going to be there. But sometimes it's just like, he's like, oh, we're having a dance party right now. Okay, or mom's dancing weird. Just have fun. Have fun with your kids. Create those memories, and the memories aren't just for them, it's for you as well. Also, we need to let go of perfection. Let's talk about this one more time with homeschool. Give up the fact that your homeschool is not going to be perfect. Not everything's going to go perfect. Listen, we're finishing up, I guess, our 15th year of homeschool, and I only have one child, and my homeschool is not perfect. Or things like getting up late, or I'm like, oh, I'm going to get this done, and it just takes longer. Or I'm like, oh, it's suddenly 11 o'clock, and I didn't even get out of my pajamas yet because I just found that there was a lot of other things to do. I was behind in things, and it's not going to be perfect, and we're not going to get through all of the curriculum. We're not going to accomplish everything, and we're all going to sometimes be tired or grouchy and those kinds of things. Things aren't going to be perfect, but what puts that pressure on us that it has to be perfect? One of the things is comparison. That is comparison to others with their homeschool. It can be comparison to a perceived homeschool of somebody else, because you do not know how homeschool goes for anybody with a day in and day out, not even your best homeschool mom friend. You are not there every moment because you're not those kids' mom. You don't live there at that house. And so you don't know. You know what she tells you. You know what you see and observe, but you don't know everything. And so we can often compare to what we think. We can also, in our own minds, have an ideal. I am not against having a routine, a rhythm, having some type of, let's just say, an ideal that is actually possible for yourself. But we can have an ideal that is just so way out there. It doesn't even have to be that far way out there. It can just be slightly out there. And it can make us then feel like we're incompetent. We can't do this. And so when we are feeling like we can't reach that ideal, then we are going to be inconsistent in our homeschool. And so all of these things will cause inconsistency. So the physical, if you're not feeling like you physically can actually do this. Mental, there's too much stress that's going to cause inconsistency in your homeschool. Spiritual, if we aren't focused on our relationship with God, we are going to hold our homeschool back a lot because our hearts and our minds aren't in the right place. We might be putting too much emphasis on the academics, or we might just be too grouchy. We might be becoming too impatient many times, and we aren't actually accomplishing the goals that we have and the ideas that we want for our homeschool. And then also adjusting our emotional outlook with the homeschool. It can hold us back from being consistent when we have a perspective that this doesn't really matter, that what we're doing doesn't really matter. So it's okay to miss this day. And then we miss the next day. And then we miss the next day. And then maybe we'll fit a little bit in. And we can become inconsistent because we think that it doesn't really matter. The crazy thing is that you start on day one, say with a geography lesson book that you're super excited about. Say it has 180 days and you do 180 days. Okay, we're just going to use that as an example. Day one, you look and you're like, wow, we got 179 days to go. And every day you do the next lesson. You do the next lesson. You do the next lesson. And most of us never get 180 days all the way in. But say you love this geography curriculum and you never miss a day. Suddenly you'll look and be like, wow, we're at day 100. Now we're at day 130. Now we're at day 170. Wow, we reached day 180. Again, you don't have to reach all those days, but it's just little by little. That's why I call this little by little homeschool, because little by little you will achieve your vision, your goals, and they'll be redirected and they'll be changed, but little by little homeschool. Have a greater vision, but do it little by little. If you're having trouble with this consistency and all of this, I would like to recommend to you to go ahead and join your homeschool blueprint. We're going to work on what your homeschool could look like to make it easier for you every day to be consistent. You can find that information at littlebylittlehomeschool.com/blueprint. Would have all the information, and the link will also be in the show notes. Remember, when it comes to homeschool, that the academics are great, and academics are a way to grow. Academics are a way to help us to become more well-rounded. But there is so much more to these years of homeschooling than just the academics. We can teach our kids how to be consistent and show them how we are taking care of ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And we can let go of that perfection, those ideas that we have that just are not attainable, and actually show them that everyday life can be beautiful and we can be consistent at it. Friend, again, if you are struggling, I would love to be able to see you over at your homeschool blueprint and be able to walk alongside you through this process so that you have a homeschool that is set up that is actually a great ideal. It's a perfect ideal for you right now. That's something that you can actually carry through with. The link will be in the show notes for you.
Thank you for listening, friend. I'd love to connect with you more. You can find social media links in the show notes and share this episode with a friend who could use a boost to her homeschool. See you back here real soon.